Welcome to Veteran State of Mind. I'm your host, Geraint Jones. I got a co-host in today, young Sam. He's looking very homeless and dilapidated. He's just been swimming in a river, apparently. Like you said, like that's a normal thing to do. But we'll come on to him in a moment. Before we get on to Sam, just want to say a thank you to today's sponsor, Geraint Jones. Sam, how gorgeous is Geraint Jones? Very gorgeous, he says. Sam, you've read my books, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
How great, on the scale of great to great, how great are they?
They're very great.
Pretty great. He's showing me a massive erection at the moment, so I'm going to say that they're really good. If you guys want to support the podcast, if you enjoy what we do today, well, there's two things you could do. One is you can buy my books, support my books. But if you haven't got that, because I know not everyone is like young Sam, living it up down in Eton, being millionaires. So if you can't get a book, that's fine. Don't worry about that. All I would ask is please go and check out the Royal British Legion, rbl.org.uk. They're linked up in the show notes. If you do that for me, I would consider that solid. And as ever, please, if you enjoy the podcast, tell a mate, leave a review, bring a mate along. I'm not saying that you guys aren't doing that, but when I'm looking at the data, I'm looking at the statistics, people aren't bringing a mate along every episode. I feel like you're breaking the podcast covenant. Please bring guests along, guys. It's not just for my ego. At the end of the day, if I have one person listening, my ego is fed. That's all I need. I got Sam here. Don't need anyone else to listen to me rambling. As long as I've got an audience of one, I'm fine. But Royal British Legion do make the podcast happen. And I think you'll all agree that by having guests on, okay, today we got Sam, but usually we do have interesting people on. You know, we have guests on. They have great knowledge. They have interesting stories, inspiring stories. Let's not be Jack and keep that information to ourselves. Let's spread that information around. You know, there's someone out there who maybe is going through a hard time who could do, like we had Barry O'Connell on from State of Mind Fitness. No affiliation to Veteran State of Mind, except that, as I've said before, we're both Essence. He's got a story about how he got into business after the military. That might help. That may help some veterans out there. We've got other stories about people who have come through suicide. That could help somebody, like hearing those stories, like Radha's story. That could help people out. We got people like Joe on. I don't know. Maybe someone's got a beard. Point is, we have a lot of information on this podcast that I do think you agree will help other people. So please spread it around because that could make a massive difference to someone. That's the bottom line. Sam, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Gez.
All right, cool. Great, inspiring answer. Let's just get into it then, shall we? What have we got on the agenda for today? We're going to do advice for young blokes, not just young blokes, so it's just advice for people in general, isn't it? I'm going to try and tone it down now because I don't want to go all rants and bancy like I did last time. Joe, who's co-owner of Rants and Bants, he was like, who's this young whippersnapper muscling in on my territory?
Well, we've got two topics which may potentially result in a rant from you.
Right, okay.
Let's just get them out of the way. First one is fact-checking.
Fat chicks?
Fact-checking.
Oh, all right.
So, like, I don't know, Cossack Gundy, you know, Johnny, the ex-YPG guy now in Ukraine.
You mean friend of the podcast?
Yeah. Been following him and sort of all the stuff he's been posting. He's telling us to, check the news, make sure you're, like, looking at the dates of, for example, like the Russian tanks moving up, so that it's not just like some old video and stuff like that. And it got me to thinking, like, I don't really check my news. I sort of stick to Atlas News and a few other bits and bobs, and kind of just like assume they're reliable. And I know you're quite into going into sort of reliable sources, and I like to think you're quite a newsworthy person. So how would we and how should people check the news and make sure it's not fake news or going down a rabbit hole?
Right, what I do is I look for something that confirms what I'm saying, and then I just go with that regardless. To be honest, mate, what I do is I just look at a variety of things. It's almost like a spectrum. Something like a news channel using old footage isn't necessarily nefarious. It could just be that they just have shit researchers. You know, and they have lazy researchers, and that's the first bit. So just because, like, let's say, for instance, they're saying there's a train full of tigers moving to Germany, right? And I didn't actually mean tiger tanks. I meant, like, actual tigers. I'm just using a ridiculous example. But let's say that's a thing, right? that they might find some footage of a train full of tigers and put that on the news. But that footage might have been the wrong footage. But the fact that it's the wrong footage doesn't then mean that the story's, not true. So one of the things that I think people do too much of is they find out that they're like, oh, they said that there was a riot broken up in London. Well, this photo was from a riot 2 years ago, so it's all bollocks. Or maybe it did happen and they just used an old photo. Right. So, people go too far down the other way of dismissing everything because the media that accompanied the story wasn't necessarily from that event. So we consume news in a media way. So we're kind of like, we're the ones that have made this happen because most people don't want to look at a story that's just writing. Most people want to have a video or something attached to it. So we're kind of like, as a society, we're to blame for this because people are scrabbling around trying to find some kind of media to attach to a story where they could just put the fucking text out. So my thing with is, have you ever heard of like ClickFunnels and funnels and stuff like that when it comes to sales?
No.
Well, basically, the premise is that you have, so let's say you have an email thing. You send an email out to 500 people and then people click through. Some people will click to go to the next stage. Some people will drop out and things. And that's kind of how I look at news. It's like I try and just take in a wide funnel of information, whether that be just maybe someone's TikTok account that someone was out there on the ground, or it might be a story from a major news outlet. And I kind of just chuck it all in there and just filter it down until I come with what I think is like the distilled truth or something close to it at the bottom of it. And that gut instinct you get for most things in life. I think because I've done a lot of, like, most of my life now, the last 20 something years, I've been a bit of a history buff. And I think we assume that there's all this new stuff that's happening in the world and things have never happened before and people behave in things that they've never done before. But there's only so many ways people can behave, and there's only so many things that can be, like, so many political acts that can be done. And I think once you've got a good basis of history, you can kind of it's almost like you're just like, right, oh yeah, I've seen this before. And you just get a gut feeling for what's going on. And I think that when it comes to establishing the truth of what you see in the media, you have to just accept that you're never going to know 100%. Like that's part of it. And it's you have to kind of build like a sensitive detector to the stuff that's like obviously outrageous. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoy jumping on like outrageous headlines. But so I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it. But then, it's you got to look at a lot of sources, but then apply it to what you know from the past. Because even though the past is slightly filtered itself, depending on what you look at, which is again why it's important to look at multiple sources from the past. You're kind of like, right, this is what I'm being shown now. How does this compare to what I've seen in the past? And, it's a tough one, mate. There's no simple solution to it, to be honest. I feel like as I get older and I've done more reading and every year that this goes past and I've done more reading and I've got more books under my belt from, reading different sources from all throughout history, then I think you get better at picking out what's going on. But I don't think there's any quick solutions to it, to be honest. I mean, if people want to get better at understanding what's going on now, my first thing to them would be, well, start reading, pick up your Marcus Aurelius and pick up your books that are thousands of years old. Pick up a book from the Second World War. Pick up a book. You're going to learn more about what's going on now by reading what's going on in the past and reading what's going on now, if you see what I mean. Sorry, I couldn't give a more concise answer on that one, but it's something I haven't really thought about, to be honest, mate. But I think that's just it. Basically, you make yourself you use a history to make yourself a big funnel, and then you kind of like you say, you just try and distill out. A lot of it is what makes sense. It's like, because a lot of times you're being told such and such is doing such and such, and you're like, well, that just doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? And you just got to ask questions, mate. Like, asking questions is critical when you're watching the news. Like, the last thing you should do when you watch the news is just be sat there taking notes like it's gospel. You should be like, like those annoying little fucking kids that are like, why? Well, that's what you should be like when you're watching the news. Well, why would that be a thing? Well, why are you saying that? Well, why aren't you showing me this? Why aren't you talking about this? You need to be asking questions.
Next topic, OnlyFans thoughts on Instagram.
Right, now this one I've done a bit more research on. Right, first of all, Sam, do not call them OnlyFans thoughts, right? These people are legitimate business people.
That was literally quoted from your message to me.
Was it? Right, well, someone obviously didn't give me a discount. Right, what's the topic? Oh, did I make this topic up? Oh, yeah. Okay, this is... I think I know why, right? I know why I brought this up, right? Because I know a lot of you lads right now, or a lot of lads in general, go out and buy OnlyFans subscriptions and stuff. And like, look, I'm all in favour. If somebody wants to sell images of themselves and things like that, I'm all in favour of somebody doing that if it's for the right reasons, you know. And I'm all in favour of someone that wants to go and buy them. But I do think that it needs to come with a warning, especially for younger lads, because what I don't think younger lads especially really kind of understand is that if you're paying for girls' images and stuff like that, and if you begin to become like, if the way that you begin to think about your relationship, especially sexual relationship with women, is a transactional one, that will probably have, not for everyone, but for most people, that will probably have a knock-on effect in the rest of your life. It's going to be very hard for you to see women as anything other than something that you pay for and get sexual gratification for. And I think that people need to consider what effect that's going to have on things like relationships, because let's say you've been paying for OnlyFans for a year and then you meet someone you want to get in a relationship. Well, your whole thing with women up until that point has been, I give you money, you show me titties, and that's the relationship. And that can be a mutually beneficial relationship, I'm not saying, but it's not going to work in a fucking, like, an actual relationship, right? You can't be like, right, here's 20 quid, show me your fucking titties. Now, that doesn't need to be literally like that, but I do think that there's this thing with guys where it's like, well, I took you to dinner, now you need to fuck me. Like, that is a financial transaction that guys think, okay, you're not giving money over, but I took her on a date, therefore I should get to fuck her. No, guys, you don't. Like, one, make her split the bill. That'll thin out the herd very quick, I tell you that. Everyone's a feminist until the fucking Uber needs to be called. That's one. Like, you'll find out very quickly who's actually a feminist when it comes to calling an Uber. But it's you know, these things that you're doing, especially like as an early age, if someone's in their late teens or early 20s and doing this stuff, it will have an effect on you. And you need to be, you need to realize that is something that can happen. And if you want to go ahead and continue buying OnlyFans and stuff, fine. But keep in the back of your mind that all these decisions that you're making right now, and more to the point, your routines, your patterns of life, will affect you going forwards. And the longer you do it, the way that neuroplasty works, everything, and the way that your brain pathways, so to speak, work, the more you do something, the more that becomes entrenched as a way of thought. So if you're in your early 20s, and you're making sexuality a transactional financial thing, that is probably going to be how you think about it for the rest of your life, which you can argue that's okay, or you can argue that's not healthy. I'm not saying one or the other, but I'm saying that you need to be aware of that. And I think on the flip side of it, I think women need to be aware, not all women, obviously, but if you are somebody that's doing that kind of thing, if you're making work, if you're making money from showing your body and from sexualizing, basically, from monetizing young men's desires or men's desires, then you have to understand as well that they will then see you in the light that you would do as a car. Like, I paid for the car, that's what I'm paying for. You can't, in a perfect world, would you be able to sell images of yourself and then have someone still treat you as 100% as a human being? Absolutely, that's the way it should be. But let's be realistic, it's not like that. So if you are selling images of yourself and you have monetized yourself, that is the way that a lot of people are going to treat you, like you are a commodity. It's the same, like, look, it's, and the whole thing is about, I don't look down on anybody that does it, because at the end of the day, I took money to go and work on a ship where potentially I'd have to kill someone to stop them hijacking a ship, right? So if I'm willing to kill someone for money, I'm not going to look down on somebody who's willing to show the fucking titties for money. Do you know what I mean? Good for them. And anyone that's doing private security work or anyone in the army, you know, you have sold your body for money, basically. Like that's the reason you got fuck knees now. You got fuck knees because your body was used by the country, and you know, and so I don't think it's something you shouldn't look down on people, but being realistic, I think that you have to expect that kind of reaction from a lot of people because most people are going to look down on you, you know, from doing it. And long-term prognosis as well is like a lot of things. Like, I don't know how much money people make from these things, like, but let's say it makes a couple of grand difference every month. You might wish in 10 years you had that, like, you didn't have that money, but there weren't pictures of you all over the internet, and that, you know, you weren't finding it hard to meet other people because that stuff was out there. And again, I'm supportive of anyone that wants to buy it. I'm supportive of anyone that wants to sell it. But you have to ask yourself, you have to look like, what's the second, third, fourth order effects of this stuff, you know, of this stuff going on. And if you're okay with that, great, you know, go for it. But I'll tell you right now, lads, that moment of, I've fucking bought porn. Of course I have. I think most people have at some point. But that moment of gratification that you get is very short-term lived. You're buying something that's going to give you some pleasure in the moment, but then that might fuck you up mentally. Your relationship with sex and women might be fucked up for the next 20 years. Is that really a trade-off that's worth making? And, you know, I think for a lot of us, it's probably not. I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, don't watch as much porn. You know, don't go through this. Don't make yourself see this stuff as transactional, because it will impact your relationships and it will impact more like your happiness. You will be less happy. You know, like you're giving into a desire, which we all have, and it gives you that short moment of gratification. But then what about your day-to-day happiness? You know, it comes at an expense of that, no pun intended. And, you know, it's just something that people need to be aware of. I'm not saying it's a good thing or bad thing, but just be aware, you know, be aware of it. It's the same thing when it comes to drugs. Or because it is, you know, essentially it is a drug, because what you're paying for is that chemical release that you're going to get through getting turned on. The same way as a drug, you know, I'm not against people doing drugs, but at the same time, you need to understand that there will be consequences from doing it. So just if you are someone that does this, then just have an honest chat with yourself as well, and ask yourself the reasons why you're doing it. Are you doing it because, let's say, for instance, you're working away from 3 months at a time, you can't meet any women in real life, and you need something to get you through those 3 months? All right, is that something what you're doing? Or are you doing it, are you buying OnlyFans and stuff because you're too scared to go and talk to girls? Are you doing it because you're worried about getting rejected? Are you doing it because you don't have confidence in your body? If it's one of those things and you know it's coming from a place what's not healthy, then you've got to work on it.
Next topic is how to get girls and sort of tips from...
Well, buy their OnlyFans. Not really.
Hire an escort. What?
Yeah. There's two answers to this one, because it's going to depend on what kind of girls you're trying to get. I'm just being real about this. There is certain types of girls out there, and when we say girls, I am speaking broadly here. I realise that, you know, I'm not generalising every girl, but unfortunately, we can't go through every single individual on the planet, so we are going to have to be a bit broad here. In my experience, generally people in this sense can be broken down into two kind of groups, and one of them is the transactional group, to be quite honest, because the transactional thing goes both ways, right? It's not just a guy thing, it's not just a girl thing. It's an ecosystem, right? It's the same as anything else. And there was times in my life where girls, what they wanted from me was me paying for nice hotels, me paying for bottle service at clubs, you know, being around that kind of lifestyle. And that was what they wanted from it. And it didn't mean they didn't like me as a person as well, but would they have been around if I wasn't spending all that money? No, they wouldn't have been. They'd have been around another guy who was spending all that kind of money. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, you're any less of a, like I said, they didn't like you as a human being, but their main thing was that they liked the high life, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And like, let's be so quite honest with, like, let's look at those. like, there's, we all know, like, your Dan Bilzerians and stuff. He's always surrounded by women. He's a fucking douche. But there's a lot of people, they love that limelight. They want to be in the photo with him because they know it's going to get millions of fucking likes and they're going to get loads of followers and stuff. And for some women, that's what they want. That's what's important to them. And again, I'm not going to knock that because I understand it. So, there's that side of it. So it's like, well, you want to get them in that sense of things, be successful, earn lots of money, spend lots of money. That's one side of it. Now, what I would consider a healthier kind of group of people to me is basically, one, let's be real, I think the physical appearance makes a lot of difference. Now, not everyone could be as essence as me, Sam. I know you're struggling not to salivate on the other side of this camera. But I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we said that. Look, let's be fucking real. Fat people are not as attractive as people that are not fat, and I don't. That doesn't mean they're not as much of a human or as great of a human or anything like that. But I think evolutionary wise, I think it would make sense that we are programmed to be attracted to someone that looks like they would be someone who would be healthy and fit and produce a fit kid. I mean, I don't see how that is a controversial opinion. That makes total sense to me. Fucking my tinnitus is going. I just got ringing in my ear. And then, I also think as well that if you go to the gym and if you are in shape, it shows that you can commit yourself to something. It shows that you have a work ethic. And it shows, I'll be quite honest, it shows that you respect yourself more, in my opinion. If you're fucking fat and you dress like a sack of shit, it just shows that you don't respect yourself. I'm just speaking for myself here, but my podcast. So that's kind of how I see that. So I think that's an important cornerstone of it. And getting back to the whole transactional thing, I think if you want to attract a nice girl, a good like person that has their own stuff going on, it's to not treat it as a transactional thing. The fact that you buy someone dinner doesn't mean that they owe you fuck all. If you want to pay for dinner, fine, but they don't owe you nothing. If you want to take someone on holiday, fine, but they don't owe you nothing. You can't then get mad and be like, oh, I fucking flew you out here, now you gotta fuck me. No, if you want to do that, go to a prostitute. And I think, to be honest, mate, is to just have, like, and this, to be honest, mate, this doesn't just go for women either. I think this just goes for people in general. If you just want to attract people to be around you, you've got to have stuff going on. You've got to have stuff that you can offer that other person, not in a transactional way, but nobody wants to be around someone who is just a drain. Like, you need to be like, so if you were looking at somebody like, oh, I want to hang out with this person, if all that person did was take, you're not going to want to be around that person, are you? If all they did is take their problems and offload it onto you, you're not going to want to be around that person. So the ability to, one, deal with your shit, basically, and two, to like have things going on in your own life. Now that doesn't mean that you need to be a fucking Elon Musk or whoever, but it just means that you have a work ethic. It just means that you have plans. You have. I think a lot of people are attracted to ambition. And that doesn't mean that you want to be Scrooge McDuck and have a pool of money to dive into. But it just means that, like, maybe your ambition is, I want to do something to make people's lives better, or I want to do something to make my own life better, or, I want to travel more. But I think if someone doesn't have that, then they seem like a very stagnant person. So that's something I think is important for somebody to have. And I think just in general, mate, I know this is like seems so basic, but just being a good person, just not being a shitbag. Like, it shouldn't be that hard to not be a shitbag. Telling somebody the truth, being honest with somebody, having a laugh with somebody, being willing to let somebody else have an opinion that you might not necessarily agree with, but you don't need to be like, well, no, if you don't, like, I do think a lot of lads I do think we are pretty kind of sexist in a lot of ways, and it's not necessarily, no, sexist isn't the right word, sorry, but like, I think a lot of lads in the military especially, we do think we know everything, and I do think we're all pretty guilty of thinking that we're the most interesting person in the room, because we find the military interesting, so we assume everyone else does. Well, they probably don't a lot of the times. So, Yeah, you've been to Afghan. Yeah, you've been to fucking this. Or maybe you want to join the army. You want to join the paras or whatever. That might not mean that much to her. But she might have stuff going on. It's just as important to her as your military career is to you, or whatever your career is. And it's kind of accepting that. And I got to be honest, I struggle with this because I'm pretty fucking narcissistic, mate. I struggle to do that, and that's one of my big weaknesses when it comes to other people, is to take their shit as seriously as my own stuff. That's something I do struggle with. But if you can do that, then I think you're building yourself a basis for a very strong relationship. If you can be okay with someone else having ambition and support that, and actually genuinely support it, and not just be like, yeah, okay, honey, great, we'll do your thing too. But in the back of your mind, you're like, I really don't give a fuck. I think just being genuine in your intentions, mate. You know, being genuine in your intentions, not lying to people. Because every time you lie to someone, you fuck that. Like, again, it comes back to like, what's that person going to be like in the future? Every time you lie to someone, you're fucking you're giving that person shit to deal with in the future then. Because like their future relationships are going to be impacted by that. Every time you treat someone in a certain way, be that a positive way or a negative way, that affects every other interaction they're going to have going on from there. So just be kind, be kind, be honest, and don't waste fucking people's time. If you don't know what you want and somebody asks you, tell them the truth. Say, I don't know what I want, and give them the option of moving on. This is going into a bit of a ramble here, so I'm just let's wrap this one up. But let's kind of let's put a little bow on it. If you want to attract someone, in my opinion, and a lot of opinions will differ, have stuff going on in your life that's interesting. Get yourself in shape. Treat the other person as an equal to yourself.
Fair enough. You did mention dressing well, and you did just call me homeless a few minutes ago. How would you suggest people dress for dates?
Depends on the person, mate. Depends on yourself. Dress who you are, basically, my thing will be. Again, it comes down to authenticity. It's just authenticity, mate. Like, look at my hair at the moment. I look like a right weirdo. But it's just authentic to how I feel at the moment. If you're not someone that wears a suit, don't go on a dinner date wearing a suit thinking that you've got to do that to get that girl. If you have to pretend to be someone else to be with that person, then that's not a person you should be with. You should be able to dress up like looking like what you are now. And I'm sure there's some girls out there that love swimming in rivers who think you look like a right ravaging hunk right now. It ain't me, but I'm sure they exist. Be authentic to who you are, and you know it's all part of that kind of thing of honesty, isn't it? It's like don't be thinking you need to turn up in a pair of like Louis Vuitton shoes and everything like that. If that's what you wear every day, then great. But don't be thinking you need to do that, because like I said, if you do have to do that, then it's not the right person.
Last one I've got on the list is hygiene. Specifically manscaping and sort of more general hygiene points, which people don't normally mention, but people should do.
I'm in favour of manscaping and stuff. I don't know about the fully bald look, though. I think that's a bit kind of pedo-ish. I think I'm going to steal a Russell Brand quote on this one. He said you should have just enough that there's a little bit of cushion there. You're kind of doing that. There should be just enough cushion. I'm not going all the way down. But look, man, again, it comes down to like, if you expect your lady friend to be all groomed and perfect and everything, and you turn up with like a fucking bird nest on your pants, it's not very respectful, is it? You know, just a bit of mutual respect, mate, goes both ways. You know, I go back and forth when it comes to body hair on the chest and stuff, though, because I used to shave my chest, but now I've got long hair. It feels ridiculous to shave my chest, and then I've like hair that's literally down to my chest. So I've got the chest hair going on at the moment. Again, mate, it depends on the girl. Some girls I know, they love chest hair. Other girls think it's disgusting. I don't think anybody in the world likes back hair, so you might want to get rid of that. But again, I suppose it comes down to like, if you want to do it, do it. But if you feel like you're doing it because you have to, then maybe don't do it. Like, I can't remember. Was it Seneca that used to dress up? Who was it that someone used to dress up in? They had the thing where they'd wear like, they dress up basically like a beggar in the really weird clothes and stuff, so that people would ridicule them, and then they got used to. So this is back in like ancient times. They would get used to being ridiculed. And then that made them build up a thick skin where they wouldn't give a fuck about other people's opinions about their appearance. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. Like, I think that when it comes to manscaping or clothes or whatever, Well, a lot of the times we're trying to conform to what we think what other people want rather than what, what do we want? What makes us happy? And if you are happy in yourself, you will attract other people. Friends, women, men, whatever. You will attract other people to you if you are confident in yourself and if you are happy in yourself. I don't know if it's vibrations that we give off or what. But I'd tell you this, mate. When I am happy in myself, things go better in life. Things come to you. People want to be around you. I don't know, like, if it's a collective consciousness thing or what's going on there, but like, if you hate yourself and you don't respect yourself, then how's anyone else going to?
Yeah, well, with that haircut, that's a good question.
To be honest, mate, one of the things I've always had since childhood is I've always been overly worried about what other people think about my opinions because I was a fat kid. Disgusting little fat kid. And I still have a lot of body kind of consciousness issues now. And that's why I do stuff like grow my hair long like this, because it makes me have to be more conspicuous. Because what I always used to do, and I can remember distinct memories of being at uni and worried and being hunched over and everything because I was worried about, well, what are people thinking of me? I'm trying to hide away as much as possible. I was like, the hunchback of Lancaster University. And that's why now I will do things too. So whether that's wearing jeans that are loads of rips in them or extra like T-shirts that are kind of like a different cut to a normal T-shirt or something that's brightly coloured or my hair like it is now, I do that to put myself outside of my comfort zone. Because people do look at you when you dress differently or you have your hair differently or whatever. So when I go to a shop, I get used to people looking at me, and it's the same as anything else. It's like if you put yourself through something, you get used to it and it doesn't bother you as much. And I've noticed, to be honest, because we've been in lockdown, Boris, because of that, when I have gone into public places and people have looked, I have been more uncomfortable than usual because I've lost that repetition of doing it, if you see what I mean. And so, like, I'm speaking from a place of experience here. Anyone thinks I'm just, I'm like, I don't have any idea of what it's like to be self-conscious or whatever. I fucking do. I'm self-conscious all the time, but you have to put yourself out there. And, it's the same as to go into the gym. Going to the gym is uncomfortable, but by the more you go, the more you get used to it. And then if you have a break of a few months, Boris, then when you come back into it, it's a lot harder, and that's the same with your mental game too.
Sort of general hygiene wise, what are some things which people don't tell you but you should do?
Hygiene wise, you asking me? Fucking hell! What do you mean, like general hygiene wise that they don't do? I don't know, mate. To be honest, I'm not a bootneck. I hardly shower. To be honest, mate, I'll take the opposite stance on this. I think that hygiene stuff's overrated, honestly. I never really wear aftershaves or anything like that. I think a lot of the time I have what's kind of like a musk, about like, I used to be really worried about, overly worried about like all that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes you just gotta be a man. Oh, you've been sweating a bit. Oh, I don't want to go into that shop. I've been sweating in the gym. I look like a mess. I've got, try to make things perfect all the time instead of real. And I think sometimes, man, like there's people out there that, one of the things we do, mate, is we think people give more of a fuck than they do. So let's say, for instance, you've been at the gym and you might feel you're a little bit stinky. And you're like, but you want to go to the shop on the way home, but you're like, oh, I'm not going to go there because I've been to the gym and I've got to go home and shower and then I'll go back. And you're making it this big deal in your head. No one in the shop gives a fuck. No one's even noticing you. They're looking what they're having for their tea, or they're on their phone, or they're thinking about their own shit. They're not thinking about you. And like we do this all the time. We build up in our heads, like, one of the main things that's for it is that I noticed this when I worked in the gym. Like, everyone that comes into the gym thinks the same thing. Everyone's going to be staring at me and judging me. No, because everyone's thinking, themselves, everyone's going to be staring at me and judging me. Everyone in the gym is thinking to himself, everyone's staring at me and judging me. Where everyone is worried about other people judging them. And now, don't get me wrong, again, be a realist. There are a few people in gyms who are dickheads and probably do look around to judge people. But the majority of people are looking around like, either admiring you or they're just looking around because they're curious and they're just feeling just as uncomfortable. And, because we are obviously the main person in our own life story, we always put ourselves first to everything. It's like, oh, if I don't go to this wedding, then everyone's going to notice. They're going to notice you. They're looking at bride and groom. Do you know what I mean? Like, we always put ourselves, that we always trump up our importance in all these other stories. Whereas the reality is that no one really notices us most of the time. We're pretty fucking invisible. Like, you've been out and about today. How much did you actually notice the people that you saw?
Quite a lot. I like to...
All right, you're a pervert!
No, I just like to observe things.
All right. Well, I didn't realise I had a serial killer on the podcast. So you weren't a great example. Most people walk around with their heads down looking at their phone. Agree or disagree?
I don't think people are on their phones that much.
All right, maybe down in Eton, because you've got a slave to carry it for you.
What are you on about?
Everyone knows, mate, I went down to Eton recently. Everyone knows it's posh down there. All right, I know you're saying people aren't glued to their phones, but I do think people are in their heads.
I think people have got poor situational awareness, but I don't think they're still looking around. But they're not going, oh, like, he's got a really bad haircut. Or, some people will. Like, I look around just to, like...
You say that, do you, you horrible bastard?
Like, I look around, see it, just, like, interest, like, see, like, if I walk around the street and be like, oh, did I see that person earlier? Or, like, play memory games, because sometimes I get bored. I, like, try and remember people's appearances.
You're weird.
I'm very weird.
But I dig it, though, mate. It's good to keep your brain... It's good to keep your brain active like that. And it's funny when you do play games like that as well, because I always find it funny, like, how in a small town or whatever, when you do start paying attention to that stuff, it's amazing how often you cross paths with the same people.
And also, like, this has only happened to me once in London. Like, I was just looking around and I saw somebody get pickpocketed. I walked up to a pickpocket and I was like, can you give him his stuff back? And he was, like, so afraid of being called out in front of everyone. He did it. But it's just, like, I don't know, like, part of it's, like, I don't know, I want to know if somebody's following me or if I'm about to get mugged or something like that. Part of it's I'm just genuinely bored and just want to, like, try and entertain myself.
Yeah, no, I think it's good, mate. It's good to have situational awareness. Like, I see a lot of stuff on the internet about people who are too far the other way. Like, they're paranoid, like they're going to get attacked every minute. And it's like, well, no, it's probably not going to happen. But it's, it's like everything in life. There's a happy medium between being totally paranoid about something going to happen and just having a decent idea about what's going on around you. It doesn't have to be one or the other. All right, you got any more questions, mate?
No, that's it.
All right, cool. What's going on in Sam's life at the moment then? Let's have a quick couple of minute catch up and then I'm off.
Mainly revising. Got A-levels, which are now called assessments because of COVID. Training for a half Ironman triathlon in June. Just did a triathlon a few weekends ago. Swimming in the river, running, that kind of stuff.
How you, what is it, as being a young man, how has the last year been for you?
I'm a pretty antisocial person anyway, so I haven't noticed much difference.
Serial killer. Again, be authentic. Just call yourself what you are. Serial killer.
No, I just like being alone. Yeah, I haven't noticed much difference. And like, I've had a few texts saying, like, are you still alive? That kind of thing. I'm not gonna lie, but I quite like being alone.
Right, you're fucking awful for these kind of questions. So, okay, let's expand it then. Like, your friends, generally, how do you feel like this last year? Do you see people in your life who you have noticeably changed in the last year, particularly young people?
That's a good question, but if I'm honest, no. Like, I mean, I literally only, like, the people I see are, like, my next door neighbours. I go for, like, I'm helping out one of them develop her fitness. I'm just going for runs with her and stuff. She seems completely normal. Like, she hasn't changed at all. She's still, she's still pretty nutty. Like, and the people in my boarding house at school, pretty normal. I'd say we were all slightly more happy to get pissed at school than normal, but other than that, that's about it, really.
Do you want to remove that from the podcast?
No, I highly doubt the headmaster listens to this. So
It might do, mate. Might be a fan. Good work, young Sam. Thanks for coming on the podcast. You can leave now. I will continue and do the outro. Cheers, mate.
all right, see you later.
See you later, mate. All right, guys. So there you have it. Young Sam on the podcast. He's a serial killer, as we've established today. So if you see him out swimming in any rivers, he's probably disposing of body parts or at least some kind of like hammer. I want to say thank you to me, Geraint Jones, for sponsoring today's podcast. If you're interested in any of my books, you'll find them in the show notes. And as ever, I want to say thank you to the Royal British Legion. Me love you long time. No podcast without Royal British Legion, guys. Check them out. And again, if you find this today useful or any other episode useful, please spread it around. Tell your mates, leave a review, all that kind of stuff. All right, catch you next time, and I love you. Bye.